guys, welcome back to the new episode of The Final Take. This week we got a bunch of big movies to talk about, like Clint Eastwood's new movie Hereafter, Paranormal Activity 2, Buried, and Woody Allen's new movie You Will Meet a Tall Dark Stranger.
Yes, and we always have our classic review of the week and another movie that you really don't need to go see, and of course it involves in 3D again. I can't believe that these just won't end. Alright, here we go.
Now, renowned director and actor Clint Eastwood has gone from a hard-nosed cowboy to a female boxer to a man who sees dead people in his new movie Hereafter. Clint Eastwood is working out of his comfort zone. He's not really used to tackling the supernatural element of cinema. And does Hereafter work? Is it a very effective emotional feat like a lot of Clint Eastwood's movies usually are? Well, I'm afraid to say it seems to miss the mark this time. Hereafter kind of has a whole bunch of subplots going on, almost in a Crash-esque sort of format. It stars Cecile de France as Marie Lelay. She was a journalist who almost drowned during the tsunamis in 2006, and this kind of creates this epiphany and tries to write a book and try to make something out of her life that is valuable. They're identical brothers, Jason and Marcus. Jason is hit by a truck and leaving Marcus, and he goes on this big journey to see somehow if he can interact with his deceased brother. Matt Damon plays George Lonigan, who has a sixth sense per se. He can hold some people's hands and perceive and peer into their soul and see this kind of unusual supernatural supernal afterlife.
I don't do readings anymore.
You did one last week,
Yeah,
Mr. Andrews.
I know. Well, he's an associate of my brother's. It was a one-time thing. I don't...
Please, I give you my word. I won't tell anyone.
I'm sorry.
Listen. I brought money.
I don't want your money.
Everything I have.
I don't...
I lost my child.
This is a very nice scene that I'm afraid in a whole movie that never really exactly comes together. What's it going to say? And I hate to say it, it's one of the most unemotional feats I've ever seen Clint Eastwood do, and it's shocking for me because the writer Peter Morgan, who wrote The Queen and Frost Nixon, has always been great at very swift and very precise and very accurate and very important pieces of dialogue that really create a very good exposition for movies, and here it doesn't really seem to pull together. Overall, Hereafter really seems about a lot of nothing, so I gotta say skip it. As much as it kills me because I like Clint Eastwood, even Invictus was a bust read, but there was something going on there that was interesting, but almost overkill. Here, there's nothing kill. It's nothing.
Well, personally, I liked Invictus, but the thing is, when I came into this theater, I said, you know what?
Yeah.
There's enough for me here to say I rent it. And then the more I thought about it and talked about it to myself, I kept, just putting down the movie, so I have to say skip it.
Yeah.
It's just, all of these stories, there is the interest, there is the fascination, there's fascination, but they're all parallel lines that never meet, and that is the key. There is nothing that connects them all, and there's nothing that gives it that emotional push that it needs for a story of this span and epicness.
But connecting, not connecting can be fascinating, because then that shows people living on their own, being separate, and how they relate to each other, but they don't actually have to, crash into each other, they can do their own thing. But it just doesn't feel like every scene that happens in the movie, you got the quintessential dark lighting by Clint Eastwood, and there's always a lot of these moments, but there's never actually, wow, that's fascinating, that's awesome. It's just a lot of nothing,
It's basically the whole scene. It's like scene after scene. It's sort of disjointed. Maybe he's trying to say that the afterlife can't be understood, but then how are we supposed to attempt to understand it if there's no food for thought? We can't make our own sense of what this movie is trying to say, you know what I mean? It's just grabbing at hot air the whole time. These scenes just end.
I think he's also trying to get at how can we understand life? But the question I have is what's to understand about the movie, because it really doesn't feel like there's anything going on. It just feels like a bunch of events that are trying to add up to something, and then they just end before anything really happens.
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of blank spaces for me.
Yeah, it's trying to fill up these blank spaces with some interesting scenes, but the fact is it can't hide the fact that this movie simply has no core.
Somebody broke in and trashed the house.
Christy thought it was a ghost.
I know you guys are freaked out, okay? And I'm gonna take care of you guys.
Last year, there was a horror phenomenon that shook up the world, basically. It made over $200 million around the world with a budget of $15,000, made by a video game designer by the name of Oren Peli, which was Paranormal Activity. Well, of course, with that inevitable success, we have Paranormal Activity 2 this year, and You may be surprised to know that this movie is still very effective in creating scares. This one, however, is directed by Todd Williams, and instead of using the still camera, which shocked us so much in the first one, we take a security camera, so it's multiple still cameras from multiple points of view. The cast is almost all unknowns, but it's interesting to know that this is actually a prequel, so we get to see Katie and Mika from the first one, before, I'm not going to spoil what happens in the first one, but before the events that end the first one happened. It's obvious that this Paranormal Activity loses its freshness in comparison to the first one. Like, it's not original, it's not that new excitement like discovering a new movie that actually scares you. This movie is very effective, and I think it's way better than a lot of the horror movies out there, and I like its ability to use jump scares to great effect, and it also creates a very uneasy feeling for most of the movie. So it's a solid see it. I mean, it's a good movie.
Yeah, not a solid see it, but I'm gonna say see it. You know, yeah, you're right. It's better than the average, horror films that come out nowadays. I do have a critic said you go there and you really react to the audience more than what is actually going on, which is what makes the movie kind of unique. The thing I have about the movie is you mentioned the security cameras, which I think detract the film a little bit because the original Paranormal Activity was that one shot of that bed, which was like iconic almost because you're just like, oh god, here it comes, you know, and you're anticipating, and now that it comes from a whole bunch of different angles, it kind of takes away from that experience, but it still delivers.
But actually what I liked about the security cameras is the fact that you don't know, because as it switches between the security cameras, you're not sure if it's going to stay on one camera or if it's going to go to the next one, and it repeats itself because you're waiting and anticipating what's going to happen next, and you don't know.
There's that thing floating in the pool constantly. That delivers actually more laughs than
there was more laughs because, like, the same shot kept coming up over and over again. I commend this movie for its ability to actually create scares, because, like, with Blair Witch 2,
that was a disaster.
That was a disaster. You know what I mean? It had nothing, it wasn't original, and not only that, it just didn't scare anybody. But for this one, it's very effective, it actually tries. The ending, I'm sort of...
The ending, it just feels totally implausible. And on top of that, what happens is, they set it up, I swear, for a threequel. And then, and what's gonna happen? Like, how do they make like 20 million already in like the first weekend? And now it's gonna happen. I guarantee. I'm being a little facetious, but they're probably gonna throw Brad Pitt in there to make even more money. Next time Paranormal Activity 3.
Paranormal Activity 3 starring Brad Pitt. You know, it's just tell that maybe if this franchise keeps going down this path, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse. Like the Saw franchise, which is just gonna be which was tired out after maybe 2 films, but one. There you go. But just. I think that if it can keep trying to expand, it maybe has a chance, but if it doesn't, then it's going to end up like another Saw.
I've noticed a pattern with the audience, though, with the second movie, that now it got me worried. Even though I was scared, I admit I was scared, it makes you worried. The audience is, like the listening, and everyone's, has this going on with their ears, and then boom, the jump scare, and they go, oh! And then right after, though, just laughter. They laugh at themselves. Which is what I'm like, okay, this is almost being like, it's almost like a parody within the audience,
It's such an interesting phenomenon, how this came about, you know what I mean? Because the first one, and also this one has to live up to the expectation of the first one, which I thought was very, very effective and scary. I don't think I've ever yelled out loud in a movie until that one last year. I think the fact of the matter is you should go to this movie with people and get in the phenomenon before it gets overblown and overhyped, because if you are willing to be scared, you will like it. If you're going in there denying to be scared, you're probably not going to be scared.
So I think by the third one it's going to run into steam, but this one does work.